Enda Barimini. My name is Mutindambewana, and welcome to the Chosen Generation. Do you get shocked and even disappointed when you hear that someone from church or even the neighborhood has just had a child out of wedlock? Well, if such things worry you, then this show is for you today. Today we're going to talk about parents who have children out of wedlock. I am joined by distinguished guests who are going to help us unpack this issue and perhaps even answer a few questions for us, like why this happens. And with us today, we have Dr. Mabel Rapiti, who is a psychologist. I should correct myself. She's a counseling psychologist. There are levels to these things. We also have in our midst Tabia Kavinde. She is a clinical psychologist. Yes. And I think I should welcome you for being with us. It's been really great to have you here. To our viewers at home, you can share your views with us and perhaps even tell us your story. The hashtag that you should use is TCG on SID. Let us know what happened to you and what your experience is. Let's get right into the conversation.
Most of the problems are caused by the church. They are caused by the church not understanding how to deal with people who become pregnant out of wedlock, and the church becomes harsh. The church deals with them in situations whereby they're not able to actually make it, to create a situation where both the young man and the young lady are able to be brought back closer to where they're supposed to be, to the foot of the cross. So the problem becomes where the church cuts them and does not care for them.
I think the issue is when you think about how people are taught, it's usually the don'ts. Don't do this and don't do that, instead of equipping people with what they should be doing. So if you were to give your children more of options in terms of what they can do, then they won't always have the interest or that suspense in dealing with certain things that they've been told not to do all their lives. So
there's a lot of heartbreak. People are divorcing. With this, like this year alone, you can count how many people divorce, even the celebs that we look up to. So I think that's one of the reasons why people prefer having kids out of wedlock, because they feel like it's better. They won't be committed to somebody forever.
There's two ways of having this conversation. There's a condemning way, and there's a redemptive or educational way. If you are having the conversation because you want to condemn somebody, you are working in reverse. You're taking steps in reverse. It's not going to end well. But if we're having the conversation for the purpose of education, for the purpose of bringing up the level of responsibility in our young people, then that is that's a conversation that definitely must take place. That's a conversation that will aid our young people.
All right. In fact, I'm going to start with you. Maybe I should ask this question. Today we are talking about parents who have children out of wedlock. And I guess the first place to start is to ask reasons why this happens. Why would someone decide to choose that path in terms of bringing a child into this world?
I believe there are quite a number of reasons.
Okay.
But the starting point for me is the spiritual part.
Okay.
I believe that if a young person does not have a closer walk with God, is not spiritually grounded, that young person will be more vulnerable to the temptation of having a child out of wedlock.
So you're saying it's an indication of some sort of spiritual crisis?
Yes.
As a start off, all right?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. Those who are spiritually grounded, strong and all that, often do not.
Okay.
They choose not, because in most cases it is a choice. Yeah.
Okay.
But then the reasons that are often stated by some of the young parents. One, it's fear of marriage. Marriages are in disarray. And young people grow up in families where they see bad things happening. And they don't want to really to live that type of life. They see their mothers suffering, and they see the husbands being unreasonable, and they fear that that might happen to them. And they conclude, no, I don't want to see myself in this situation. I don't want to see myself suffering like my mother. And then they then fear commitment. Even when there is a responsible guy, but they just have this fear at the back of their minds. And then another reason is what they call FOMO.
Oh, you're missing out. Wow, I'm surprised to hear that word from you. But wow, so relevant, yes. Okay.
Yeah. So they see other young people having their babies, and social media is actually aggravating the situation because on social media, they just show up their babies, birthdays, they're out, going out with their children. And then the young person says, I'm missing out. I'm really missing. When am I having my baby so that I can also show off? Another one is that during that time, it's the time where the maternal instinct is strong.
Okay.
It is strong. A person just yearns to have a baby. And it's only the religious part of it that will remind the person that, hey, you only make a child in marriage, not out of marriage. But if a person is able to ignore that, a person will say, I really want to have a child. I really want to have a child. If I meet the right guy, I will really... They don't waste time, they have their children because of this maternal instinct.
I think on that issue of the maternal instinct, I think it's proper that you mention that, because I want to bring you in here and talk about the role of the parents. Do you think that many of the young people, late 20s, 30s, who decide to do this, do you think that they are ignorant in terms of maybe they were not taught the proper teachings by the parents about things such as sex and so forth? What role do you think an appropriate training would have played in preventing such a case of children out of wedlock?
I think parents play a crucial role in how children turn out, but they're not the ultimate decision maker.
All right.
So parents do tend to educate their children in most homes where children are grounded as Christians or are brought up in Christian families where these principles of God's will for us are shared with them. These truths are shared with them. And as a parent, you can only do so much to teach your children what is right. And as Dr. Rapiti has already said, part of it really goes to the element of a spiritual relationship with God. Because as you navigate life, it depends on where you are in terms of your relationship with God and how strengthened that relationship is and how it plays a role in governing your behavior. And after I, as a parent, have done my part, then what should kick in is the extent to which you're grounded in your relationship with God and what you do with that relationship.
But isn't it those very parents who say, my daughter, I want a granddaughter. Yes, we always want to make our parents proud.
Yeah.
And those statements really go deep into us. Do you think that pressure could maybe contribute to something
Possibly,
like that?
and let me put it to you this way. So if I'm a Christian, I would know that my child cannot have a child out of wedlock.
Okay.
Right? So I've taught the child that, and they're living that.
Okay.
Now, at times, we tend to send conflicting messages, where then I would say, hey, but when are you going to have a child? And in the process, we don't realize that we're creating a level of pressure that is unbearable for this person. And where, in a way, even though on the one hand, I'm saying, I will not accept you having a child out of wedlock, but I send contradicting messages because I am not promoting what is right by saying, I wish that the right partner could come along and then that you would have a child. So we send these conflicting messages. And at the end of the day, the child then sits with this pressure and they don't know how to respond to it, and then would say, you know what, even if I did it, in some ways, my mother is communicating that it is correct.
Wow, okay. To our viewers at home, please let us know what you think. Perhaps you share the same sentiments. You might even disagree. The hashtag to use is TCG on SID. Share your stories with us. Don't go away. We will be right back. Welcome back. You're still watching The Chosen Generation, and we are talking about parents who have children out of wedlock. You can also share your views with us on the hashtag TCG on SID. Let us know what you think. We love hearing from you. Maybe I should bring you in here, Mam Tabia. I've spoken about the insight into children, into young people, knowing what it means to have a child. But there's also another element, and that is the point of raising the child alone. Because usually the man will not stay. And do you think there's insight into that? That not only are there these challenges, but you also have to do it alone. And not only alone, but also socially, the stigma and so forth. Is there any insight into those issues?
I don't think one always has the full picture.
Okay.
You see a part of it. Because some of the dynamics that you find yourself in are things that you didn't know about, you didn't preempt. So let me give you an example. You have a child. Yes, you've thought about the fact that you're going to be alone. You've thought about a lot of the factors. But then you have a sickly child.
Oh, wow.
You didn't think of that, right? You're trying to keep down a job. Most of the nights you're up. There's no one to help you. It's something that you didn't even think about, and yet it happens. So I'm saying each situation has its own peculiarities that we can never think about. And with that comes the need for us to be psychologically resourceful to deal with those things. And at times, because we haven't thought about it, it becomes difficult to adapt to the realities within which we find ourselves. The other thing is, in some cases, people do find marriage. You find marriage even when you have a child. But there is the issue of the complications of blended families. Blended families also come with their own unique challenges that we don't seem to think of. Because in some cases, people think, you know what, I'm choosing to have this child. And if you, as the partner, do not want to father this child, I'm self-sufficient. I can do it, you know? And you get names like Owami, you know? And it sounds, it sounds quite appealing. But then at some stage, you do find somebody who you get married to. And then comes all these challenges that come with my child and our children and the dynamics around that. And it can get quite complicated. And I don't think we think far enough into all of those realities.
I think I can hear someone sitting back. You guys, you're wasting time talking about this topic. Why don't you just tell these people to use contraceptives? Then there'll be no children out of wedlock. So, I mean, why are we talking about this? All they need is contraceptives. What are the disadvantages? Is it even correct? Is it even right for us? I think I'll take both of you your views. I'll start with you, Ma'am Rapiti. What do you think about contraceptives? Let's give the children contraceptives and we've solved the problem.
Yeah. The world is saying that, and even the schools are saying that. Yeah. But from a Christian perspective, I would say it is not right to give young people contraceptives, especially because when you do that, you are saying it is sex before marriage is right. The only thing that is wrong is to have a child out of wedlock, and it's confusing to the young person, and we are actually sending a wrong message because sex before marriage is not right for a Christian.
But Ma'am Tabia, you know your child is sexually active. You know there's so many diseases out there. Don't you feel that maybe I should, just for the sake of the safety of my child and not having to deal with now raising the child's child? Well,
it's
really,
complicated, really. It's really, really complicated in the sense that, first of all, contraceptives doesn't mean that you won't get the diseases.
Okay.
Okay, so the diseases, all the a contraceptive will do is to prevent the child. But we also know that the only prevention that is 100% is abstinence, isn't it? We know of people who have had children while contracepting. So, and those are the challenges that we navigate through life. Life is not straightforward. For us as parents, we teach our children the right thing and we pray that they do the right thing. And as parents, you watch your child doing things that are atypical to what you've taught them. And there's very little that we can do. And part of the challenge for a parent is the minute you say to a child, okay, seeing that you're now not listening to me, I suggest now you contracept. At times can be perceived as giving the child permission to do it. My challenge with contraceptives, there's nothing wrong with contraceptives, by the way, in marriage.
Okay.
You can use contraceptives in marriage. But outside of wedlock, it tends to normalize a situation which is abnormal for us as Christians. It tends to say, it's okay to have sex as long as you don't fall pregnant, like Dr. Rapid said. And my feeling is we should promote abstinence as opposed to pushing the issue of contraceptives, because our problem is not really children. Our problem is the sanctity of the sex and the fact that it is something that is to be had within the marriage institution. So if we look at it that way, we are not here to say, to prevent having children. We're here to say that sex is something that is had within the marriage institution. And that's what we as parents should be continually communicating as well as promoting in the lives of our children.
This is a great place to actually take a break. Now, I'd like to say to my viewers at home, stay tuned. There's something coming after the break. You can also continue the conversation with us on TCG on SID. Let us know what you think. Perhaps you have other anecdotes that can be used to assist us with this situation. We cannot wait to hear your voice. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Chosen Generation. We encourage you to continue having the conversation with us. The hashtag is TCG on SID. Let us know what you think. Let's go straight into the conversation. I'll bring you in here, Ma'am Tabia. Look, we have spoken about all these issues. The child is here. It's a fact. There's nothing we can do about it. Now your child has had a child. How do you teach your child to be a better parent to the child who has come out of wedlock?
Yeah. So parenthood is a very difficult thing. It's, there are so many books about what is right. But I've found that we have the knowledge of what a parent is like and what he stands for.
Okay.
And I believe as a result of that, Christian parents are in a lot of ways better resourced, should be better resourced to coach their children into parenthood. And I think when we understand the love of God, the forgiveness of God, the process of healing that God gives, it becomes easier for us to walk that path with our child. A better parent is one who themselves have healed.
Okay.
One who themselves has worked through their brokenness. Because when you are still struggling with the consequences and the remorsefulness and dealing with the stigmatization that society has attached to you, it becomes very difficult to then demonstrate that love for the child. So I, as a parent to this young person who is struggling with parenthood, my role then would be to assist, to lead them back to Christ, who enables us to heal and to move on. I find that part of the challenge, having gone through a process like that, is first the element of forgiveness for ourselves, forgiving me forgiving myself for what I've done, and being able to move forward in that forgiveness and to embrace this child that I have. And we as parents can work hard to assist our children in that process because we know that society to a large extent is unforgiving.
All right.
So when we go back to church, we go back to the pointing fingers and the eyes and the whispers that go around. And ours is to teach our children that the one that we're accountable to has forgiven. And to help them embrace the role of parenthood. And also to understand that we don't always have the answers. I still don't have all the answers to parenthood. But I can lead my child to the one who has all the answers and who will work with them in that process.
I think that's a perfect segue to the next question, Dr. Rapiti, about the role of the church. What role that they should play when this has happened in that community. She's spoken about the Christian perspective, about Christ being central and bringing back the child to restored spirituality. What role then should the church be playing, if they're not playing, when this happens?
I believe the church should start by doing introspection.
Oh, wow.
And check what they have been doing or what they have done that made it easy for the child to be off the rail.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Have the church been taking care of these young people? Have they been teaching them what they need to know?
Proactive and not reactive.
Yes. Have they been supportive and all that? The starting point is there. And then from there, then I realize I'm guilty of some omissions. Yes. Then I need to then do something. So then I need to provide, to promote healing in a sense of making the church a warm environment for the child. Accepting, forgiving, as we are saying, forgiving. We should not only look at this child with those eyes to say, hey, and maybe tell other children not to really associate with that one because that one is off the rail.
Yes.
And
You're also going to do the
go
same
with
thing.
people like you, not with those who have children and all that. We should try to make sure that that does not happen, so that this child feels at home here. And
Can I just come in there?
Yes.
Yeah.
If I can come in.
Yes.
You know, Dr. Rapitsi speaks about the role of the church.
Oh, wow.
And I think that part of our problem is that as a church, we have not overcome the barriers of being able to openly talk about these things.
Okay.
We still have to deal with the fact that it is still taboo in church to talk about sex.
Oh, yeah. It's not a
You
holy
know,
word.
It's not holy.
No.
How do you begin to talk about sex with youth?
Yeah.
You know, and automatically we ourselves feel very uncomfortable talking about it. And what then tends to happen is that these children will go to places where people feel very comfortable talking about sex. And that's where they're going to get the advice that they want, which may not necessarily be aligned to what we want. So I think in terms of the church, in line with what Dr. Rapitsi is saying, our church needs to do introspection as to the extent to which we have become comfortable in talking about the issues that are not spoken about, that we give ourselves permission to go to the places where in the past, as a society, we have not gone to enable our children to be better equipped and resourced to deal with the pressures of society in these areas.
Look, I don't know what happened to the time, but time is gone. So I'd like to thank you so much for being here and for really helping us get a few points across. I know that someone has received the message. To the viewers at home, we'd like to thank you for allowing us into your homes and into your space. We hope that we will see you again next week. And perhaps maybe a final word. Sometimes our mistakes that we make or the guilt from the mistakes that we have made push us away from God. But we need to remember that Jesus is more interested in becoming our friend than in our performance, because he knows that an intimate knowledge of him is that which will bring the change. Let us not let our mistakes pull us away from him who saves, who sanctifies and satisfies. I'd like to say again to our viewers, please interact with us. The hashtag is TCG on SID. Let us know what you think. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, the SID Media on YouTube. And that's it for today. Thank you so much for joining us. We will see you next week. Goodbye.